So I had said in my other episode about The Sopranos that this show makes me have nightmares, and it's not the people killing each other, it's the social anxiety. And this episode, Full Leather Jacket, is all about people trying to climb above their social station. There's Jackie Aprile, no, Richie Aprile. He is a villain, even among these villains. He's the villain of the villains. All the villains on this show can't stand this guy, and the audience apparently couldn't stand him. I know I couldn't. This actor, he pissed me off in the movie Four Rooms, messing with Tim Roth, who was just trying to get through his night at work. So I was already like prejudiced against him. But then he shows up on this show, and he's run over this guy for reasons that are unclear to me, something to do with money. And now he's trying to get in with Tony Soprano by dating his sister, which turns out to be a real bad idea, and by giving Tony this old vintage leather jacket. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, it looked like a cool jacket. It looked like something from the 70s. It probably was from the 70s. But Tony didn't like the jacket, and he gave it to his maid, who gave it to her boyfriend. So this starts like Richie wanting to kill Tony. And then there's these two guys who work for Christopher, helping him with his stock scam. And they think that they're not getting all that they deserve. And there's a very cringeworthy scene with them hanging around their apartment, their shared apartment, in their tidy-whitey type underwear, smoking a bong when two tough guys come to get their money. One of them's Furio, and they take more than what was owed. And so their plan for this is to kill Christopher and then go work for Richie Aprile, and that doesn't go as expected. And then the worst thing that happens in this show, well, it's a tall order to say what's the worst thing, because there's pooping going on. There's a lot of pooping in this series. Like, one of the best dream sequences in the series is ruined by Tony intermittently farting between the portions of the dream. But that's bad. And of course, there's Christopher getting shot and shooting the one guy in the head and the other one disappearing, and that's bad. But there's cringe with the jacket. There's cringe with the underwear. See, the cringe is worse than the shooting or the pooping. And HBO was in this period where they were like, yay, we're cable. We can do like our own NC-17 stuff. And so that's why they put lots of pooping and blood and softcore porn on HBO. It's kind of like when you go back to the 80s and you watch the old 3D movies like Amityville 3 and Jason, oh, fuck. Friday the 13th 3. I'm always forgetting things. I had chemo a few years ago, and I never quite mentally recovered, and I can't remember the words for things in the middle of a sentence. And it doesn't happen when I'm writing, but then, or typing, but then typing activates some other problems. So I just prefer to do this podcast. In these old 3D movies, they were very primitive, and you could tell when you watch them now in 2D, where they were messing with the technology, where like a pole will come out of the screen at you, or you could see where it would have. That's what HBO was doing with their glorious power to make things disgusting and, sexy. And that's what they seem to continue to do today, is to see, well, how can we make this show that'll upset Erin and her sensibilities. But worse than the pooping, worse than the bleeding, it's Carmela going after her neighbor's sister for a recommendation for Meadow to Georgetown. And she thinks, here's my neighbor, Mrs. Cusimano. She's got a twin sister. somehow Carmela remembers that the twin sister went to Georgetown, and she starts badgering her and implied threatening her with violence from the crime family, the big F family, gonna deal with the little F family B storyline if this woman does not write a letter of recommendation for Meadow, who is a pretty mediocre student and who the woman doesn't know very well. And she and Jean, Joan is the twin, she and Jean try to politely put Carmela off because they're afraid of her. Everyone's afraid of her, as you'll see throughout this series, because of who her husband is. And she pretends like she doesn't like the ill-gotten gains and she wants to confess to the priest and yada, yada, yada. But what she wants more than anything is to be a legitimate person in the social structure and also be able to lean on people gangster style. And it's very cringe, her coming in and threatening this woman and trying to give her a pie. And in the end, we don't know if the letter actually was written or not. I don't think it's ever brought up again. They say the letter was written, and then she says, "Oh, can I have a copy of it?" And they're like, "Well, I don't have it, but I'll get it." And that's the end of that. But this made me so uncomfortable that I think my brain is now writing fan fiction about The Sopranos in my sleep. And every time that I have a bad dream about this show, I have to take a little break, because this isn't the first time, but this is the most vividly that I've remembered one. And it wasn't me, but I was a person lying in a hospital who had just received an organ transplant. And I was feeling bad because the person who had given me the organ transplant had been murdered by someone from the Soprano crime family. And then Carmela Soprano came into my hospital room in the dream and was like, "Well, you should feel good. You got a new heart. And you wouldn't have the new heart if Tony hadn't killed the donor," or something like that. I know it's rich for me to be making fun of anybody's accent, but there you have it. So what does this mean? It's partly the discomfort with all of the people in the whole episode getting into cringeworthy situations where they try to get into a social class that they're being rejected from. But also, I think what Carmela stands for is the idea that the ends justify the means. Everything in her life is about the ends justifying the means. And I'm probably not going to run into gangsters. I mean, unless that thing that happened in 80s movies happens where you accidentally see someone committing a crime and then you're like, "No, please, I won't tell anyone," and they kill you. Now, I don't gamble. I don't go to strip clubs anymore. I don't buy dodgy investments from people that call up on the phone. Why am I ever going to run into these people? But pushy broads who are trying to get someone to do something that they don't want to do in a volunteer capacity. I have dealt with them all of my adult life, and I suppose that I will continue to have to deal with people like that. And I am surrounded by people in an area of the country who will excuse any sort of sins in the name of business, if you get my drift. So that's what I have to say about that. I think that dreams are very interesting. I have a lot of them. I remember a lot of them. I write down the funny names that I dream up, and I like to hear about other people's dreams. So have you ever had one about a movie or a TV show? And sex dreams don't count. No, I just want to hear about strange symbolism interacting with a character from a show. So I hope that your weekend was good. I had an all right time, except it wouldn't stop raining here, and that just bothers me. Sounds bother me more than they used to, probably right along with the brain damage from the loss of my nouns, that when it's raining, it sounds like 1,000 faucets dripping. So I'm wearing a hat with headphones over it. But I'm doing okay. I'm playing some Pokemon Scarlet and watching Would I Lie to You on YouTube. So let's see if YouTube heard me say Would I Lie to You and shows you that after you watch this video. Just a little experiment with the algorithm. Have a good night.